Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hybrid Ministry Show. In this episode, I am going to give you 9 church marketing tips. We're just going to fire through them one by one. However, we're going to break them up into 2 different sections. Section number 1 is marketing tips for people who already consider themselves a part of your church and a part of your congregation. And then the back half, so those are going to be the first 5. The back 4 are going to be church marketing tips for people who are not yet a part of your church congregation. So excited to have you with us. Hey, if this is your first time ever, welcome to the show. Excited to have you. If you don't know, we stream and film every single one of these episodes out to our YouTube channel. So you can grab the link to that in the show notes. If you're on YouTube and you're like, wait, this is a podcast? Yes, it is. Hit the link in the show notes and that will take you to hybridministry.xyz, and there will be a specific link that will take you directly to this episode number and will give you completely free access to our transcripts, which is a free resource that we offer for each and every single episode. So make sure that you go and take advantage of that, because listen, if you're anything like me, you're on a run, you're cooking dinner, you're walking your dog, and you might hear a thing that you're like, that's interesting, I want to dive deeper into that. And if that is the case, it's often hard and difficult to do that, when you're on that run, when you're walking that dog, when you're doing those dishes. So you just make a quick earmark, and you're like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to download those transcripts so I can see a little bit more. So that is an opportunity and definitely an option for you. So make sure that you take a look into that and take advantage of that. We're so excited to have you with us. Hey, listen, if you are excited to be here, if you're excited to be listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you would share this episode with a friend. It would mean the absolute world with us if you would help us by making a rating or a review. We would be thrilled with those things. It just helps us get the word out. It helps us get indexed and ranked in search. Not because we're trying to go big, go viral, or go famous, but man, we're passionate about this message, and we just really want to get the word out there. It's interesting, before we dive into the church marketing tips, I was at a Bible study last night. If you don't know me, my name is Nick Clayson. I'm your host here every single week with y'all. New episodes drop every single Thursday at 4 o'clock in the morning. But I'm a youth pastor. I'm a youth pastor in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area at a big church for most, but in Dallas, it's not super big because everyone goes to church here. But I was at a Bible study that we do. It's a year-long Bible study on Sunday night, which is not a normal ministry night, and it's for seniors only. So it's a creative name called FSO. So it's that FSO, and they were talking about finding a church when you go off to college. And it was just interesting because the hybridness of ministry really reared its head in those moments because they're talking about visiting a church, how often you should visit a church, what if you go and the main pastor isn't there preaching, like how many more times you need to give that church a shot. And I just was like, guys, I was nice, right? But I was like, guys, you don't have to just only attend in person. Like, if what you're looking for is the pastor's message and the content, I said, COVID has forced just about every single church in America online. So check out their services, check out his preaching, check those things out online, gather some of those data points, and then when you know, based on what I've heard so far, this church, and this church are all options for me, then go visit them in person. So I just want to say, even in my own life, even in my own realm, even in my own world, hybrid ministry is rearing its head. So I encourage you, stick with it. It's important. It matters. There's a world out there of people that are trying to grasp and grab a hold of this message, and you just might be the key for some of those people. So what you do is worth it. What you do matters. And so without any further ado, let's dive in to 9 different church marketing tips. Before we give you marketing tip number 1, I just want to do a quick 10, 30 seconds, something like that, little primer on what is marketing. If you Google search what is marketing, this is the response you're going to get. It says this: it's the activity or business of promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising. So you might be sitting here thinking like that, yeah, great, but that's not what the church is supposed to do. And I agree with you mostly. in the traditional sense, like you might think of marketing as a way to make money for a business, and that's true. However, that is not necessarily the church's goal. Our goal, though, is to bring about brand awareness, and not because we're a brand, but because we want people to know about our church. So what is your church about? Does your church even exist? And then beyond that, once they do know that you exist, how do you help add value to their lives? And not because we're trying to get their tithe money, though maybe we are at some point. That's part of the thing. You got to make money. You got to take people's tithes and use that for the overall betterment of the church. And if you don't, the crass reality is that your church is going to have to shut their doors. And so at some level, you are going to want that, but that's not the main reason. And you know that, and that's honestly not why you're in this, okay? You're in this so that people know about you, know about your church, and then make a decision to commit and connect to your church. And with that commitment and connection, especially if that person is far from God and doesn't know Jesus, that's not only going to come with a decision to join a social gathering and entity, but that's also going to come with a major crisis of faith and a major faith hurdle decision that they're going to have to make. So this isn't just your like, hey, do you want to come shop at Walmart? This is, do you want to give your life to Jesus, radically and forever change everything about that? And then do you want to commit to our social gathering where we help equip you and encourage you in that? And if you've grown up a Christian your whole life, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what this is. But if this is completely new to you of faith, you're like, that is a lot. And it is, right? You got to just keep that in mind like that. There are about 37 things that go into that. And so while our logo and our color scheme matter, we are asking people to do major things in their life. And so what is marketing? It's bringing about awareness of your church. It's adding value to people's lives. It's helping them commit and connect to you and your organization. And then finally, it's helping create fans out of them, disciples, super fans, people who will give their lives to the mission of Jesus and the mission of your church. So that's just a quick primer on marketing, specifically what is church marketing. But let's dive in now to 9 different church marketing tips. Here we go. Church marketing tip number 1 is send emails and send plain text emails to your church. Now, what am I talking about? There's a difference between plain text email, which is just white background, black text, just like you would send an email to a friend, a coworker, or your son or daughter's elementary school teacher, right? And then there are graphically designed newsletters that look amazing. It's what you get from Bath and Body Works or Target or Old Navy, right? And they're trying to sell you something. And a lot of times, especially for in church communications or for in church marketing, we have a graphic design skill and we like to use that and show that off. We can make that newsletter, if we're honest, look incredibly sexy and sleek and amazing. However, there's been a lot and considerable amounts of research shown, and it goes to show that email marketing is done best in plain text. I have a quote here from a Mail Munch article. It's from a blog. It's HTML versus plain text email, and they dive deep into it. I'll add that link there in the show notes if that's something that you're interested in. But their conclusion said this: it can be a pickle to choose one type of email, but here's the secret that no one lets you onto. In email, less is always more. So less is more. And I just want to encourage you, don't lose sight of that fact. Less is more. And if less is more, you may get your message across more clearly, more concisely to more people. You may get more clicks. You may get more opens. And so I'll just encourage you in your email marketing, if you are doing a graphically designed thing, consider trying and beta testing and A/B testing, if you will. Send some graphically designed ones and then send some plain text ones and see which perform better. Church marketing tip number 2. When sending emails, edit your from section and send the emails from your pastor's name. There's a very big difference psychologically when you're getting an email from Pastor Todd as opposed to getting an email from Crossroads Church. You see what I'm saying? You're getting an email in one case from a friend, from a person, from a human being, somebody who you know, who you connect with, who you love, and then you're getting an email from an entity or an organization. And it doesn't have to actually be from Pastor Todd. If Pastor Todd's worried about putting his name on something, then ghostwrite it for him and then just send it over to him to get a stamp of approval and let him make the final edits and tweaks before you send that out. But you are going to see your email open rates skyrocket when you're doing both plain text and when you're sending it from Pastor Todd. Because think about it. People open their emails, and I don't know if you're anything like me, I open my emails and I see junk, and then there's like one or two things and I'm like, oh, this is from a person. Let me read it. And when there's something from a person that's personal, that's different, that's not the same, it's going to pique my interest differently because I actually want an email. Like if I get an email from my grandma or my grandpa, they're checking in on my life. They're trying to see how things are going. Like I don't delete that email, but I delete the Old Navy email. I delete the emails from my kids' school. I delete the emails from, frankly, my church, because they come from not anybody, right? And all I know they are just lists and bullets of announcements. Announcement. There's nothing personal in there. And here's the reality. When you are sending an email from a church, it is going to have an announcement flair to it. So if you can personalize it a little bit more in these two ways, by making it plain text, because that's how you would send an email to a friend, and by sending it from your pastor, that's going to help your open rates skyrocket. Church marketing tip number 3, give yourself one singular call to action. Call to action is just a marketing word for what are you trying to get the people that you're communicating with to do? What is the one call to action or the one thing, the one action step that you're hoping that they take? Now, here's the thing. We will put together a full-on smorgasbord of a church newsletter, basically a bulletin board of church email stuff, all in one email. And that's why we do these HTML, amazing graphically designed newsletters, because we can include everything. And the kids ministry and the women's ministry and the senior adult ministry and the youth ministry and college ministry, and everyone gets their announcement in the church newsletter. And so nobody's left out and nobody has to worry it. But you will see a dramatic rise in calls to action if you give one singular call to action. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, you just named like 5 ministries just off the top of your head. That doesn't even include some of the real ones that I have in my church. How in the heck am I supposed to get all of these things communicated if I'm also you're maybe only sending an email newsletter one time a week? Well, we fear this, right? We fear because we are afraid that some people might not know all that's going on. We also are afraid that some people won't get the info that they need. And also, for just honest, we live and work in an office culture, and so there's going to be awkward vibes if you pick the kids ministry's announcement over the youth ministry's announcement, and the kids pastor loves you, but the youth pastor now hates you, right? And so you got that pressing on you too, and you shouldn't let that be a reason why you do it. But it is, if we're honest. We're all human, right? And so I want to link an article for you. I'm going to read a little excerpt for you, but it's from unlayer.com. It's a blog called Call to Actions in Email. And here's what it says. Just a reminder of this: when you are sending to somebody, you're saying, hey, it's a selfish world out there. And the question that they're asking is, what's in it for me? So here's what it says. What's in it for me? Selfish world out there. Why expect your audience to listen to you? Right? For them to perform your desired action, you need to highlight what's in it for them. So let's take the example of an ebook of reducing debt you're offering as a reward for subscribing to your mail list. Which call to action sounds better? Download now or give me financial freedom. So as you're writing these things out, be thinking about how can you offer and provide value to these people's lives. That's what they're saying, right? Like this give me financial freedom button is going to be a lot more appealing than simply download now, because in the back of people's minds, they're thinking, what is in this for me? Now, the tricky thing is you're going to have to get really vigilant with which announcements get promoted where, especially if you're only doing one email a week and one singular call to action. But what I would do is I would choose one thing every single week, the number one thing, and send that out. And if the entire email is focused on signing up for kids VBS, And nothing else is vying for its attention, for people's attention in the email, because it's a plain text email. It's from Pastor Todd, and Pastor Todd's inviting you to VBS because he's sharing a story of life change and life transformation that happened at last year's VBS. You can't help but be compelled to be like, give me that same experience. And I want to invite my friends, I want to invite my neighbors into it, and that's the email. But then next week, maybe it's not about kids VBS. Maybe it's about youth camp the next week, and Pastor Todd's doing the same thing in a plain text email because it feels like he's emailing a friend. Narrow your emails down to one singular call to action, and then this is why you get paid the big bucks as a church communications, a church marketing manager, a church marketing director, whatever your title is, to figure out how to communicate the other elements, the other announcements, without just cramming more and more and more and more and more into an email. Let me give you church marketing bonus tip 4 or 3A. In your emails, include a PS section. A lot of times we as humans, we just skim our emails, and we skim, and then we see a PS, boom. Give the same message in the body of your email as you do in the PS of an email. One singular call to action, all the way down, boom, PS. Don't forget, sign up for VBS. Church marketing tip number 4. Create for yourself a one-stop shop centralized hub. This is made famous, and I have been on record on here promoting the mess out of them, from the guys up at Pro Church Tools in Canada, Brady Shear, and all those guys. They have made famous the idea of a central hub. They call it Nucleus. So you can go ahead to Nucleus.Church and make that your website's one-stop shop. So every single next step lies on your website. That's going to help, especially if we are doing these one singular call to action emails where not everything is on your email, but everything is on your website. And so if they go there, it's a full service bar. A lot of times we make it where it's like, hey, if you want to sign up for VBS, go to the children's lobby. And if you want to sign up for youth camp, go talk to Pastor Doug. And if you want to sign up for the women's brunch, you need to email Kathy. And if you're interested in the senior adult ministry, make sure that you email Harry. But Harry's not here this week, so email his wife Sue today to make sure that you get it. You see what I'm saying? Like, we have all these different scattering spots. The human brain is not wired, and frankly, not interested in remembering all those specific intricacies. But if you beat it weekly into their head, central hub, and listen, don't call it that. One church I worked at was called Liberty Heights Church, and so it's short LHC, right? And the centralized hub was LHC.life. In fact, we outfitted a whole section in the lobby as like a next steps hub in the lobby, but we called it LHC.life. So both the web URL and the in-person room were all called the same thing. And that was it. We ingrained it from the stage. We ingrained it in our emails. We ingrained it online. LHC.life, LHC.life, LHC.life. Eventually, it becomes a part of the vernacular, and people know where to go when they're looking for things. Number 5, I just want to remind you, create and put your message content out there somehow. You may or may not have the live streaming capabilities. Odds are in your church, you're at least using a soundboard. If you're using a soundboard, you have the ability, in most cases, if not with a couple of adapters, you're going to have the ability to record your sermon audio at a minimum, starting there. You can record your sermon audio. You can take that and you can put that on a podcast, and you can be on Spotify. You can be on Apple Music. You can be Apple Podcasts, all the places that you are going to want to be on a podcast. If you do have video capabilities, I would recommend posting those to YouTube. And I also, honestly, I recommend doing a direct-to-camera message anyway. So if you're not pre-filming in some sort of way or filming your message content in like a studio type of form, pre-film it, even if it's just on a phone or whatever. Have someone edit that down and post those to YouTube, and then leave your live streams as a completely different entity. So yeah, you may have duplicate content out there, but one's going to be aimed towards your YouTube audience and one's going to be aimed towards just your people that are in person, right? And finally, if you have the bandwidth, ability, margin, brain power, come up with some additional forms of content to supplement your weekly messages, but put your content out there. Like I said at the top, right? The seniors in FSO trying to figure out where to go. This is going to be a goldmine for people as they're trying to discover your church. And it's also going to be a goldmine for the people that can't make it every single week or don't make it every single week or aren't in the discipline yet of attending church on a Sunday morning every single week for whatever reason. They're a new believer. They're out late on a Saturday night. They just had a new baby, so getting up early is hard, and getting the baby there, maybe don't feel comfortable bringing the baby to the nursery, but let them still feel part of what your church has going on. All right, so what do we do when we are looking to reach people who are not yet considered a part of your church? Let me give this caveat that these are all going to be digital marketing ideas only. Not because your in-person experience doesn't matter. Your in-person experience matters greatly. I'm going to just give the caveat that you have to crush your in-person experience. And so I'm going to carry in two assumptions with this. Number one, that you are doing that you are attempting with all your might to make your in-person experience as rock solid as possible. But number two, this is a hybrid ministry podcast. And so I want to focus on the areas in hybrid space, in digital space, to help reach some of the people that are going to be out there that you want to be bringing into your church. So with that being said, maybe consider, if you really want to market to people that are unaware of your church, really maybe consider running an ad. If you go to hybridministry.xyz/009, episode 9, I talked to Matt, who I consider a marketing genius and guru, about the step-by-step process of running an ad. Now, granted, that was in 2022, and so we may need to revisit that and look at that. Maybe one day I'll see if I can get him back on the podcast. For those of you who don't know, he was our co-host on this show for like the first 12 or so episodes, and then him and I both made cross-country moves. And for a lot of different reasons, he did not make that jump back into podcast co-host dumb. And so maybe one day I'll bring him back on as a special guest to help us walk back through that. Definitely not my forte. Maybe you personally have some experience doing it, so that'd be great. But if not, if you have no idea what you're doing, head there, hybridministry.xyz/009 for a free look into that and check out how to run an ad. Number 7, church marketing tip is use short form video content. Short form video content is still king. We talk about it weekly. YouTube Shorts, Instagram and Facebook Reels, and TikTok, all 4 blowing up right now. All 4 asking for the same types of content. So create quality content in short form video versions. Post it, put it on your social media channels. And here's the other good news about it, right? Like, once you've done one that does well, you can boost that or turn that into an ad. And so that will help also bring about awareness. But just in your general area, TikTok specifically shares geographically in your area first. And so post in your area, geotag it, and then as people are experiencing and spending time on TikTok, just consuming things for themselves, they may run across on their For You page something about your church, a video, whether it's spiritual content, fun content, marketing type content, but create some of those short form video pieces for the chance and for the opportunity to go viral. Church marketing idea number 8. This one is next level in my personal opinion. We were doing it at the church I was at, both Matt and I, the co-host I had, like I had just mentioned. Create an ebook for your community. So one of the things that we started doing was we were creating a seasonal ebook. And so the first one we did was leading into summer, and I think we titled it 101 Things to Do in this area, like South Chicagoland, in this area for the summer. And it was aimed at families with younger kids, and it just gave them like park ideas, splash pad ideas. It gave them like movie night dates and places that they could go see movies under the stars or, whatever. But then what you can do with that is, if you're giving away, you're adding value to people. If you give some of those things away, the other thing is you can include your stuff in there. So you give them 95 ideas of things all around the community, splash pads and parks and ice cream cone trails and all those types of things that you either borrow off of or just create. Like we created our very own ice cream trail in the South Chicago suburbs area. There wasn't one in existence, but we just pooled our heads together like this place to make an ice cream trail. And then you give them like the family like a one-page tear out, thing that they can use and put on their fridge, and they can keep track of all the different ice cream places that they want to go throughout the summer. So you give them 95 ideas of just like places around, but then 5 ideas are your ideas. And maybe you like make those colorful, where you print the rest of the ebook in like black and white or whatever, but your pages are full page, spreads, color, whatever. And you're highlighting your church VBS, you're highlighting your own church movie nights, you're highlighting, whatever stuff you're doing that would be a great place for somebody not connected to your church to make an introductory connection step with your church, with your faith family, and with your organization. And then replicate that, make a fall one, winter one, spring one, you see what I'm saying? Or it doesn't have to be that, but think about ways in which you can add value. What you're looking to do in those is you're looking to capture people's emails, name and email. You could and should be able to do that through your church communications or church marketing database, but those aren't always geared and built for marketing. So I do remember when Matt would work at Parkview, we used like the Rock as like a church management software, but Matt was like, I want to use HubSpot, and you can do all the same stuff through HubSpot. I don't know if Matt knew all of the things that we needed for like a pastoral side of things with like baptism dates, membership, and whatever and whatnot. But he knew that you could do a lot of stuff with like an actual marketing tool like that. And so you may have to figure out the best way to do that to capture those names. It is difficult to find a free email capture list out there, so you will more than likely have to pay for it. But it's worth it, especially if you're saying we want to reach people who are far from God, who are not connected to our church, and help get them connected to our church. The last idea, not necessarily a digital marketing idea, but word of mouth. And you can take word of mouth and turn it into a digital marketing thing, right? Like when you're encouraging your church congregation to invite people to Easter, give them some shareable Easter graphics that they can download and share on their social media platforms. Give them some of those tips and tools like, hey, text this to a friend, send this to a friend, post this on your Instagram, post this on your Facebook, whatever. Because that word of mouth, like while all the best ads, ebooks, signs, website, like all those best things are valuable, the most valuable is when a friend says, hey, you know what I've been doing recently? Going to this church, going to this restaurant, reading this book. I mean, I'll say, like, I was listening to a podcast the other day. We're gearing up to go on vacation here in just a couple short weeks. And I was like, I need a book. Like, I need to read a book when I'm on vacation. I never do that. I always just read nonfiction books. Someone said, I read such and such book, and I'm not a nonfiction reader, but that book was phenomenal. Or he's not a fiction reader, but that book was phenomenal. That's all I needed to hear. I'm also not a fiction reader. He's a pastor. I'm a pastor. That book's phenomenal. Boom, bought it. I literally got on Amazon right that moment and bought it. Word of mouth. I have no clue who that author is. I'm sure they did all kinds of book tours, podcasts, marketing. I didn't listen to a single word of it. But someone else gave a word of mouth reference and boom, I bought it instantly. So think about that. Your people can become raving fans of your church. Question. Are they willing to be raving fans of your church? Or are they embarrassed by it? And if it's the latter, I would do some heavy introspection to figure out why that is. Because you want your people to be proud where they go to church so that they tell their friends, then they come. That could be digitally, or that could just be very analogically in a backyard barbecue scenario when they're at their kids', sporting event, end of season recap or whatever, and they're just talking about stuff. So those are some 9 different church marketing ideas. Hey, I hope you found them helpful. So thankful that you stuck around to the very end of this episode. If you did find it helpful, please consider shooting a rating, a review, a like, a subscribe. Any of those things really help the algorithm, and we would be forever in your debt. As a token of our thanks to you for that, head to our website, hybridministry.xyz, click on blogs, click on the article that says ebook, and grab your very own free copy of this ebook. TikTok, have I already ruined my account? A complete guide on posting your church's TikTok from start to finish. If you're the church marketing manager, or if you're the pastor and you know you need to make short form video content and you just don't know how to do it or where to turn, take this ebook, hand it to a friend, hand it to a student, hand it to a trusted anybody who you're like, hey, help me out with some of this stuff. And if they don't know what they're doing, it will be their complete guide to starting from scratch, from start to finish. So I hope that you find that helpful. And again, as always, we're so grateful that you're here. Head to the episode show notes for all the links to articles and all the different things that we've referenced throughout this episode so far. But if you did find it helpful, please consider sharing it with a friend. That would mean the absolute world to us. So glad you're here. So glad you're along for the ride. This matters. What you do matters. So don't forget, and as always, stay hybrid.